Purim is soon upon us, which is very exciting. Of course, before that we have Taanit, Esther. So we want to speak about that today. I heard this Torah from Rabbi Gershenfeld, my Rosh Yeshiva, a few years ago. And his opening question is, why is today called a Taanit Esther? That is to say, why not Tzom Esther? In English, this gets lost in translation. It's just called the Fast of Esther. But in Hebrew, there are two words seemingly that are interchangeable. There's Taanit Esther and a Tzom Esther. Why are we choosing to call it Taanit Esther and not Tzom Esther? That's the question. So in response, Rabbi Gershenfeld mentions, the whole point or one of the overwhelming messages of Purim is that we're supposed to be building loving relationships with everyone around us, with all the creatures of the world, and that's one of the important messages of Purim. And the way we see that is because there's, I think, a Gemara that says that no one knows how to speak Lashon Hara like Haman. What did he say about the Jewish people? He says, Yeshno am echad mefuzar umefurad. There's this nation that's scattered, and they're separate, and they're not together. And we see that the response to this, or that the first step to addressing this kind of issue that really helps us come together is this contrast. That is to say, the Jewish people are all separate and scattered. What's the solution to this? How do we come together? After we're threatened with extermination. There always seems to me be a problem before everyone comes together. In Israel, unfortunately, this is still true. It's beautiful to see during times of war, suddenly all Israelis they come together. There's a sense of achdut, right? Everyone just feels unified and together with this faced with these troubles. And then, of course, once peace comes, the trouble and bickering peep up again. But we always see once there's a contrast, once there's a threat, the Jewish people come together. And we're trying to figure out what do we do in response. And we see the response of Esther. And we would have thought that her response would have been, we need to fast and pray. That's what we need to do. But that's not what she says. Her first solution is, and we're looking here at chapter 4, verse 15, Lech knos et kol haYehudim hanimseim b'Shushan, v'tzumu alai v'al tochlu v'al tishtu shloshet yamim. Right? So first, go assemble all the Jews who are present in Shushan, and fast on my behalf, and neither eat nor drink for 3 days. And we need to figure out, what is going on here? So first, the first attitude is we need to gather together. That's step one. But then step two is very interesting, and here is the focus. What's the difference between a tzom and a ta'anit? Because look at what this pasuk says. It says, "V'tzumu alai, ve'al tochlu, ve'al tishtu shloshet yamim." Now, it says, fast for me, and don't eat and don't drink for 3 days. Now, those two things are seemingly extraneous. It's redundant. If someone's fasting, then they're not eating or drinking. If you're not eating or drinking, then you're not fasting. Why do we need this double lashon? So clearly, tzom means something different. And just to reiterate this, on Yom Kippur, the Haftarah for the day is in Yeshaya. One of the psukim is in chapter 58, verse 3, and it says as follows, Lama tzamnu ve'lo ra'ita ininu nafshenu ve'lateda. Why did we fast and you didn't see? We afflicted our souls and you didn't know. That's the first half of the pasuk. Now we know that ininu nafshenu means afflict your souls, and that means to fast. Because in the Chumash, when we're talking about Yom Kippur, it says uveyomam, like ve'initim et nafshotechem, right? And you shall afflict your souls. That means fasting. So why in Yeshaya does he say before that lam natzamnu ve'lo ra'ita? Right? Why did we fast and you didn't see? Those are the same things seemingly. Why did we fast and you didn't see? And why did we fast again? So what's the double lashon? So says Rabbi Gershenfeld, and he's bringing this from the Malbim. He was a commentator 200 years ago. His work is called Torah U'Mitzvah, and in there he goes through pshat. That's his job. So as a pshat issue, we need to figure out why do we have these seemingly redundant words? So the Malbim explains that tzom does not mean ta'anit. That tzom does not mean a fast. Rather, it means that you're meant to gather everyone together and see how we can be better. A ta'anit means to fast, right? It means be an ani, right? Be a poor person and don't eat or drink. That's the difference. A tzom is meant to fix the future. A ta'anit is meant to fix what we did in the past. Those are the two different things. And we see again that what helped us in the end, at the end of Megillat Esther in chapter 9, verse 30, it says, and he sent letters to all the Jews to 127 provinces, the realm of Achashverosh, words of peace and truth, just reading it in English, obviously, to confirm these days of Purim in their appointed times, as Mordechai the Jew and Esther the queen had to join them, and as they had ordained for themselves and for their seed, Divrei hatzomot ve'zakatam. Amazing. So apparently what really helped wasn't the fasts, it was the tzom. It was the gathering in together of all the Jewish people. That's what helped us. That's what saved us from Haman's decree. And what's beautiful about this is we even see this reflected in other places. That is to say, there's a house of worship, right, where everyone prays. What do we call that? You'd think it should be called the Beit Tefillah or Beit HaAvoda, but it's not. It's called the Beit HaKnesset. It's called the house of gathering. That seems to be almost like a peripheral issue. Okay, the fact is we need to pray. Where are you supposed to pray? In this place. So what do you call it? It's a Beit Tefillah, and we happen to gather together because we have to do that. But that's incorrect. One of the central messages of the Beit HaKnesset is that we're supposed to come and pray together. It's true that you can pray in your own room, but you can't gather the public in your own room. As a result, you're meant to go pray with the public in a Beit HaKnesset, in the house of the public. And the tachlit of this fast is, so we see that first we're meant to come together, we're meant to pray together, and we're supposed to gather together and love each other. And what's beautiful about this message is that the goal of a Taanit is not to I feel so weak. I haven't eaten all day, but rather the point is, how does your neighbor feel? That's what you're supposed to be worried about. You're supposed to care more about other people after. Like, wow, even though it's true, it's difficult for me, but look at this guy. He's 13 years old. This is his first time fasting. It's really hard. Not only after the fast, he has to hear the Megillah, so he can't even eat right away. This is difficult for other people, and we're meant to come and care more about others, and that is how we're supposed to enter Purim. And of course, you know that Purim is so much about being in the public and so much about caring about other people. At least two of the mitzvahs of the day are meant to reflect this. After all, we have Matanot Levyonim, where you're supposed to give gifts to the poor, and there's Mishloach Manot, where you're supposed to give gifts between you and your friends, Ish L'Reyehu, and that is such a central message of Purim. I'll leave with that. And Chag Purim Sameach, we should all enjoy, and everything should go well with the Jewish people. Amen.